The sound of sirens filled the park as an ambulance arrived to tend to Mmeso's wound. Mike stood by, holding Laura tightly, his protective instincts in overdrive. Susan was on the phone, relaying everything to someone, her voice trembling with urgency. Mike watched as paramedics placed Mmeso on a stretcher. "I need to tell you something, but not here. It's not safe," Mmeso gasped. Mike's voice was firm. "You've put Laura and me in enough danger already, Mmeso. If you have something to say, you'd better make it worth our time." Mmeso's eyes were heavy with guilt. "It's about the people I got involved with. They are dangerous and they know everything about us," she admitted, before being whisked away by paramedics. That evening, Sam arrived at Mike's house, visibly shaken, his usual confidence replaced by nervous energy. He avoided Susan's eyes and focused on Mike. "Mike, we need to talk," he said gravely. Mike crossed his arms, his frustration evident. "If this is about Mmeso, get in line. I've had enough secrets for one day." Sam hesitated before blurting out, "It's not just Mmeso. It's me. I've been keeping something from you." Susan's eyes widened. "What are you talking about, Sam?" Sam ran a hand through his hair, guilt written all over his face. "Months ago, I got a call from someone claiming to have information on Mmeso. They asked me to meet them, and I did." Mike's jaw tightened. "And you didn't think to tell me this?" Sam's voice cracked. "I didn't want to worry you, but now it's clear I made a mistake. That person has been sending me messages ever since. Threats, warnings. I think they're connected to what happened today." Susan stood abruptly, furious. "You've been putting us all at risk, Sam." The next day, Mike visited Mmeso in the hospital. She looked fragile, her arm in a sling, but her eyes were determined. "Thank you for coming," she whispered. Mike didn't waste time with pleasantries. "I'm here for answers, not thank yous." Mmeso nodded solemnly, explaining how she got involved with dangerous people and how they were now targeting her and her family. As Mike left the hospital, a man in a dark suit approached him. "Mike Daniels?" he asked calmly. "I've been following this case for months. I believe your ex-wife is involved with a group we've been investigating." Mike eyed him warily. "Who are you?" The man handed him a card. "Detective Alex Monroe. I can protect you, but I need your cooperation." Mike's mind raced. "And if I don't help you?" Back at the house, Laura sat by the window, clutching a photo of her mother. She looked up as Susan entered with a tray of cookies. "Auntie Susan," Laura asked hesitantly, "do you think Mom will come back to live with us?" Susan smiled gently. "I don't know, sweetheart, but no matter what happens, you have a family here who loves you." Meanwhile, outside the house, a car sat idling in the shadows. Inside, a figure watched the family through binoculars. The intentions were unclear. The figure answered a phone call. "Everything's in place. We move tonight," came the cold, calculating voice. The call ended, and the figure disappeared into the night. The air was thick with tension as Mike paced the living room, while Susan sat silently, her face pale. Laura was upstairs, unaware of the storm surrounding them. Sam arrived shortly after, his face a mix of guilt and concern. "We need a plan," Mike said. "Detective Monroe says he can help, but trusting the wrong person could put Laura in more danger." Susan asked, her voice trembling. "I'm fine," Mike said, though his shaking hands betrayed him. "But this is just the beginning. Whoever that was, they're not done." A cryptic message the next morning. Mike found a folded piece of paper tucked under the windshield of his car. His stomach churned as he unfolded it. "Leave the past alone, or your future ends tonight." Mike showed the note to Susan and Sam. "They're watching us," Susan said. her voice barely above a whisper. "Which means we don't have much time," Mike replied. "I'm meeting with Monroe today. If anyone knows how to deal with this, it's him." Sam placed a hand on Mike's shoulder. "Just be careful. We can't afford to lose you," he said, a mix of concern and fear in his eyes. At the hospital, Mmeso sat staring out the window, replaying her decisions over and over. She had destroyed her family, endangered her daughter, and now the very people she tried to escape were closing in. "Envelope. This was left for you," she said before leaving the room. Mmeso opened it cautiously. Inside was a photograph of Laura, taken that very morning as she walked to school. Her hands trembled as she read the words on the back. "You can't hide forever." Mike's meeting with Monroe was set at a secluded cafe. Monroe was calm but focused. The group Mmeso was involved with. They're not just small-time criminals. They're part of an international syndicate, and they don't leave loose ends. "The trap is set," Monroe said. "Mmeso will act like she's ready to turn herself over, luring them into a controlled location where my team will be waiting." But as the night wore on, doubts began to creep into everyone's minds. At midnight, just as the trap was about to be sprung, Mike received a call from an unknown number. "Hello?" he answered cautiously. A voice whispered, "Mike, it's Laura. I'm scared. There's someone outside my window." Desperate, Mike drove like a madman, heart pounding with fear. "Stay safe, Laura," he whispered to himself, gripping the steering wheel. When he arrived, Laura was waving frantically from the window, pale with terror. "He's here," she whispered.